Thank you. Could we please have roll call?
Yes, you may. Councilmember Kelly.
Present.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember McCafferty.
Here.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Granillo.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Here.
Mayor Miller.
Here.
And our attorney is present tonight.
All right, introductions, presentations, and proclamations. We have a presentation of certificate to Essence Bar and Kitchen for a Chino Valley Business Humanitarian Award presented by Spencer Guest, IT Manager, and Terry.
I'm just going to do a brief introduction.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. To do a brief introduction to it. We, last month, we had a recognition, and we want to more formalize it and on a regular basis recognize outstanding businesses and volunteers. There's so many people that do so much for our community on a regular basis. And in an environment where we can bring it to you, the council, and you can recognize with us those contributions people make to our community. So we have two tonight. We have one. If I get this to move. Is the Humanitarian Business Excellence Award presented to Essence Kitchen Bar and Grill, Chef Jason Krupp and Julia Ammons, and that will be presented by Spencer, who has a personal connection to the owners. Spencer, you would.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to come and present the first Humanitarian Business Excellence Award to Chef Jason Krupp and Julia Ammons, owners of the Essence Kitchen and Bar. I know many of you likely have visited there and their establishment, and you probably have enjoyed the dining there. I know I have on several occasions. And if you haven't, I would encourage you to give it a try. They have really nice staff and really nice dining environment, and I think personally some of the best food in the Quad City area, at least in my humble opinion. But beside the great dining, I want to make you aware of some of the things that they have been doing there that I think really exemplify the award that they're receiving tonight. First, Jason and Julia host a complimentary lunch to honor our local veterans on an ongoing basis, and they have paired that luncheon with help our local kids and with careers and education. In one of the veterans luncheons, they had pulled the high school students who were pursuing their career in culinary arts in to assist with the operations of the luncheon. And they have also used the opportunity to donate funds to assist with the college education of a local student. Second, back in July, Essence hosted a back-to-school meal along with Papa's Kids Schoolhouse Foundation, where free backpacks and school supplies were provided to families from the community. And I think, as you probably are aware, that's a really important thing every year, but really important this year with the economy the way it is and the struggles people are having. I also wanted to extend my personal gratitude to Jason and Julia for something they did for my family personally. And some of you may know that my wife and I were hit by a car while walking back in March of this year. It sent both of us to a trauma hospital down in Phoenix, and my son, Brandon, who works as a cook at Essence, and even though they needed him to operate the restaurant at that time due to staffing limitations they were having, they felt it was important enough that he be able to be there with us, so they closed their restaurant to allow him the freedom to go down there and see us. So I believe that alone, in addition to the other things I've seen, speaks volumes about the character of Jason and Julia and their commitment to their staff, as well as their commitment to Chino Valley and how they use their business essence to benefit everyone. So the award reads, in recognition of our outstanding commitment, spirit, and exemplary humanitarianism, as demonstrated by our bi-monthly veterans lunches, the annual Back to School Bash, providing backpacks, supplies, and reading material to local students, providing hands-on experience in Chino Valley High School culinary arts students, and most personally to the town by support of Essence employee Brandon Guest after his parents Heidi and Spencer Guest, our IT manager, were injured in an accident. Not only have you built an amazing restaurant that is a place to create, inspire, nurture, and share, but also to uplift the human spirit through kindness and compassion. And with that, I will turn it over to the mayor to come present the award.
Well, I was going to read that, but I'm glad you did, because now I don't have to read it. So all I'm going to do is extend my hand and say thank you. Thank you for being part of our company. Go in.
Aw. Okay, B. Presentation about special recognition to volunteers Richard Coleman and Jack Graham, who have for years been quietly maintaining the Peavine Trail, presented by Scott Bruner, Special Projects Manager, Terry Denny.
Evening, Mayor and Council. We recognize and celebrate two outstanding volunteers, Richard Coleman and Jack Graham, for their due diligence in maintaining our 5.3 miles of the Peavine Trail. These gentlemen have donated hundreds of hours to maintaining that trail. They pull weeds, they rake, they shovel, they pick up trash, they change the trash out on a regular basis, and including the dog stations. So they put a lot of effort into that, and Richard has done it for many, many years. And we certainly appreciate that, because what that does, their due diligence, frees up our parks crew, and that in turn saves the town money. So with that in mind, folks, I'll call Cindy Thomas, our Community Services Manager, for the presentation. Cindy? Cindy?
Jack and Richard, for your time, energy, and enthusiasm, quietly and consistently volunteering to maintain the Peavine Trail week after week, month after month, and year after year. This trail is a significant recreational asset that allows residents and visitors to get outdoors and enjoy the wide open vistas Chino Valley has to offer. Your efforts not only provide a welcoming environment for trail goers, but also saves the town of Chino Valley money by performing a task that would otherwise be assigned to parks maintenance staff. We thank you for your outstanding community spirit and enduring contribution to the quality of life for our residents. You go.
And here is yours, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your help. Cindy. We all gotta stay here. Open your deals.
Open the dealies.
So they like it better. Come on in, you're small.
Thank you, Jack.
There you have my good. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Jack. Moving along to C, presentation and update by the Chino Valley Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Laurette Brashear, the President and CEO of the Chino Valley Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today to give you a little bit of an update. You have a PowerPoint? No? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, So we're just going to go ahead and go on without a PowerPoint. So some of the
Oops.
But some of our accomplishments, one of our major accomplishments for this past year has been that the Chino Valley Area Chamber of Commerce has a forever home. So on the PowerPoint, it had some before and after photos. So we had a great help putting that together, and we finally have a permanent home and a permanent address. So we don't have to move anymore or look for another home. Also, some other accomplishments are that the Chamber is now a 501c3. We have been working really hard on this. We worked on it in 2020, and unfortunately, our application got lost. And so we were able to reestablish that and officially became a 501c3, and we are now the Chino Valley Area Chamber of Commerce Education Foundation as well. Our membership has also increased. We've seen our membership increase. We're now at a steady 200 members, so which means we don't go below that mark, and we always kind of go above it. So right now with membership coming in, it's hard to predict with the renewals and then the incoming members, and also with members that are just, renewing and getting their payments. So it does fluctuate, but we never go down the 200 mark. So we're really excited about that. Last year it was 160, so now we have gone up and we've never passed that 200 mark, gone down below it. Our community presence has been great on social media. We've gone up by 46%, and this is Facebook and Instagram. Our visitor center, we have our relocation packets and walk-ins. June and July, we did 28 walk-ins that we were able to service. And we were also able to pass out 18 relocation packets. This month so far, we've serviced 11 walk-ins, asking for new information, new people moving to the area, and 2 relocation packets have gone out. We're also a state certified visitor center. We're also doing a lot more audio and video podcasts with local promotions for members and non-members. So we're really excited that we're able to help non-members get the word out through our podcasts. We're establishing great partnerships with our broadcast media, including our weekly radio show, our regular radio spots with Yavapai Broadcasting, and also including more live remotes and working with Magic 99.9 and Sunshine Radio. We've also increased doing a lot of mixers and grand openings. We had a mixer and grand opening last Saturday for the P-Vine, which is a huge success. We have one coming up September 14th, which is Horses with Heart. Horses with Heart will be having a grand opening and a mixer. Their grand opening is for their Classy Pony Resale Boutique. So we're really excited to showcase that and help them with their grand opening of that. Also, October 6th, we have another grand opening and mixer, and the grand opening is for So and So. And so they have been around, but Roxanne is now full-time going into the business. So she's ready for her grand opening. So we're going to be doing that. Some of the other things that we've been doing is morning breakfast. So we're starting to switch up doing some quarterly breakfasts. And the reason we're doing this is we've really reached out to our members and asked them what they want. So as most of our members are wanting some breakfast, early morning things, early morning networking. So breakfast is mostly focused on networking, and our lunches will be mostly focused on presentations and what we can do for the community. Some of the upcoming things that we have is with our 501c3, we're now able to apply for grants. So we have one grant that we're in the process of applying for, and it is a grant through Safeway. And we're also going to be applying for other grants through the Arizona Department of Tourism. We're going to be having a guest presenter come down and speak to our board next month. Along with our board, we're doing continuing education workshops. So we've got one going on that several board members will be attending, and that's a board governance workshop, along with the ABCs of a successful chamber. So a bunch of us will be attending those workshops. So we're really excited to see what we learn and that we're able to apply those things to our local chamber. We've also established a partnership with the Hispanic business community. We're establishing this through SCORE, and we're able to do more Hispanic programs. So this will be that these programs will now be conducted in English and in Spanish. And some of those programs include like how to read a P&L, taxes 101, marketing, public relations, those kind of classes. Jingle Bash, which is our largest arts and crafts show, will be December 2nd and 3rd, held at the high school. And so we're going to be doing that. We already have applications out for that, so people are anxious and excited and signing up for that. So it is a 2-day event. Harvest Festival, which is in conjunction with the town of Chino Valley and also with Yavapai College. Harvest Festival this year is going to be October 15th. And we're, again, excited about that. We have the vendor applications ready for that as well. So we'll be taking in vendors for that. We've got a beer garden, and I hope you guys are ready for the scarecrow race. One of the other things that we'll be getting ready to do along with Essence Kitchen Plus Bar is the Veterans Thanksgiving. This will be the 3rd annual Thanksgiving that we partner with them. And so we're really excited to be doing that as well. And something new is a Moonshine Festival, something that will be starting in September of 2023. We're already in the process of doing this and already in the process of planning it. Basically, this is my take on Wine Bites and Brew. So it's going to be a Chino Valley Moonshine Festival. We are taking it back to where Wine Bites and Brew originated, and that's going to be at Earthworks. So we're in the process of getting that started. We're booking bands already. We're already getting all the information, getting ready for that. And so that's for next September. Lunch and Learns will be starting up in January, and that's part of applying for the Safeway grant. We're hoping that through that Safeway grant, we're able to provide free lunch for anybody that wants to come to the Lunch and Learn programs. The Lunch and Learn programs are free to anybody that wants to come. So we'll also be starting off with marketing for those ones and social media for those ones. Women in Business. Women in Business is doing really great. We have been alternating between one luncheon, one mixer every month. So they're doing a mixer, then next month they'll do a luncheon. So they've been doing really well. Upcoming, they've got one August 29th at Essence Kitchen Plus Bar. It's how to make a charcuterie board. And so that's going to be their mixer. And then on September 27th, they have a luncheon that's coming up. And that luncheon is going to be how to market on a budget. So how to do marketing on a budget, and that's going to be the guest speaker for that is Guy Rogerson with Signals Arizona. Job Fair. Job Fair is coming up February 17th, 2023. So we'll start gearing up and getting ready for that November, December, and getting the applications out for the Job Fair. Chino Valley is the first to launch the Job Fair season, so that'll be February 17th. The next thing that we're working on is a candidate forum for the school district. There is 3 candidates that will be doing this. We're not sure on the date. Right now we're waiting for one candidate to come back and respond, but it looks like the date's going to be September 22nd. Small Business Saturday is something that we do every year, and this year we're going to be launching it 1 month early. And the reason for this is because we will be doing some filming of local different businesses, what they've got going on, and it's basically our take on Shop Local in Chino Valley, business guide for shopping local. And so that'll be launching in October. So it'll be launching October, and we'll be doing different businesses. The idea of this is we're going to be doing a gnome in Rome. So we actually have a gnome that's being made for us in a business suit, and that gnome will be visiting different businesses in Chino Valley. Cool. So we'll be doing some social media on that and some videos, but we will be launching that just a month earlier so we can get everyone in. Our next Hispanic business class that will be coming up is going to be, we're looking at October 8th. It was scheduled for October 1st, but there's a lot of events going on October 1st. So we're going to reschedule that for October 8th, and that is how to grow your business in Chino Valley. So we have some Hispanic guest speakers, and actually Julia Ammons from Essence is actually one of our guest speakers as well that'll be talking there. We have already launched some mixers, Hispanic business mixers. We've done 2 in Chino Valley and 1 in Prescott Valley. So we're really reaching out to the whole Hispanic business community. That is my update for you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
No, ma'am, that was a lot of information.
It's a
and
lot.
dates. So I hope that we can get that presentation printed out and get it to us so we can catch up with everything. No, I got some of it down, or a lot of it, but not all of it. Thank you. Any questions, Council?
Not for me.
No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lou. All right, call the public. Individuals requesting to speak, please complete a speaker comment card and return to the clerk. Before we go into call the public, I'm going to ask Andrew to go over, the Attorney General has given a new opinion on how we're supposed to
Andrew's like, thanks.
how we're supposed to conduct call of the public. So you're going to go over that real quick for us, right?
Mayor, I'm happy to do so. It's actually just a reiteration of what was there already, but because the Attorney General deemed it important enough to remind us all, that we passed that along to all of our clients. Basically, the question that was asked to the Attorney General was, could a council have a policy to not respond at all to a call to the public, that the council as a whole decided that? If an individual council member wanted to reply, and thought that was kind of an odd question. We don't really know anybody who does that, but the answer was no, it's an individual council member's decision whether or not to reply. So the main question was answered that way. As part of it, they threw in a discussion about how you respond to the call to the public, and those are with the 3 items that you're allowed to do only at the end of the call to the public after it's been closed and all those speakers have spoken, and not in any kind of dialogue with the people who are coming and presenting a call to the public. So they basically were reminding us of the rule and reminding everyone that the responses, if there are any, and that's only to direct staff to do something, to ask that it be on a future agenda, or to respond to criticism, which is kind of broad. Those are the 3 items for which you can actually make a response, but only at the end. So,
Thank you
in a
very
nutshell.
much. All right, ma'am.
Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. The total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. First one I have is Larry Holt.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Town Manager, and staff. I'm here on behalf of the Chino Valley Memorial Foundation to give you all a formal invitation to the 9/11 ceremony this year. It will be at 8:30 on Sunday, the 11th of September. I expect at least one person at the mayor or vice mayor level to be there, just so you can so you can lead the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever else we decide to give you. An update on the memorial real quick is, with the work that was done last year to divert some of the water coming off the hill, we have not flooded this year.
Good.
Wow.
Good.
We have used a lot of money this year because in the first quarter of the year, we went through $1,000 worth of flags. Thank you, Chino and the wind. But we're going to work Saturday. We're going to be laying down new bricks out there, and I'm waiting for a call back, that we'll be laying one very special one for Wade Parker. But we will be laying down another row of pavers on Saturday, and we have entered a partner with Juvenile Justice and Probation, and they're helping us with the upkeep of the grounds now.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
that's it. Hope to see you all there, though.
Thank you.
Oh, I just broke the rule that we're not supposed to reply.
I did.
Mayor, do you have the timer up there by chance? My electronic one is not working.
Yeah, I do. It was up here and I put it down here.
Thank you.
Remind me to be.
All right, you have to look at this little sand thingy.
So next one is Jim Milligan.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor and Council. My name is Jim Milligan. I reside at 2633 Solarville Drive here in Chino Valley. Let's see. I'm here this evening to represent myself and the residents in Bright Star community who have dealt with a decade of issues regarding Meridian Parkway East. The overall first concern of any town, city, state is the health and safety of the citizens, as it should be. I purchased my home in 2018. Meridian Parkway East was paved at that time. The town removed the deteriorating pavement between Orion and Unity Road in early 2020. In doing so, traffic flow increased to more than 20 vehicles per hour. Excessive speeds increased along with dust, most importantly, impacting the health and safety of the residents of the subdivision. Several concerned parties, along with myself, took action at this point, attending town council meetings, asking that something be done. Watering the road on a regular basis was the first concern of the town. For dust abatement, reducing the dust at a high cost, I'm sure, but not helping with the traffic concerns. Let's see, a 15-mile-an-hour sign, no dust signs were installed, but ignored mostly by all drivers. In early August of 2020, the town applied a cement slurry on the road. If I can find that for you here. And it means for dust abatement. The procedure worked moderately, but was short-lived as a Band-Aid, per se, slowly deteriorating after 6 to 7 months. Now, in addition to dealing with unacceptable amounts of dust, we are also dealing with particulates in the dust from the deteriorating slurry. Many residents of the subdivision have recently submitted road maintenance, I'll find that on there, road maintenance forms with no response from the council or town at this point. Please take note that the residents of Bright Star rarely use the dirt section of the road. It is used by individuals who should use Ma Perkins and Perkinsville Road. It is highly recommended that access to the Meridian Parkway East from Unity Road to be closed, diverting traffic that services outlying areas to Ma Perkins and Perkinsville Road until East Road 2 North is extended. Doing so would eliminate improvements and maintenance costs for the town, allowing extra funding for Ma Perkins and Perkinsville Road. And I could go through,
I'm sorry, sir, but you need to wrap up. You're out of time.
oh, very good. And I'll leave the information with you there.
Yeah, that'd
Thank
be
you.
fine. Thank you.
And then finally, Tanya Hebel?
Basically, just a question, is there any department that addresses the weeds, the having more than 2 horses per acre, travel trailers that are used for rentals that are already on property? I know that's something that they're talking about, but any particular place we can go to get answers, or is it only handled by complaint, not by anyone studying it?
I'm sorry, but I can't respond to you until
Oh,
you
that's
were
okay.
done. But I will.
That's all the submitted cards that I have. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak at Call to the Public?
Okay, seeing none, we'll go on. You're gonna, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. It was the man over Meridian?
Jim Milligan?
Jim, thank you. You said you would get that information to her and she'll get it to us. And Tonga, it's code enforcement is who you want to talk to. You can call the main switchboard at 6. Well,
Whoops. I seem to get through.
All right, well, let's just move on.
all right. Current events, summaries, and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor and any council member or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events. If listed below, there may also be a presentation on information requested by mayor and council, and questions may be answered. No action will be taken. I attended last week the grand opening for Laser, the ribbon cutting ceremony, which is a horse or large animal storage facility, basically, that if there's a fire in the area, you can bring them out here and store them. And it was a good thing, a good thing. And that's all I got. How about over here?
It was hot that day.
It was hot.
I'm good.
I don't have anything.
Down here?
I attended the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization Executive Board, on which I sit. The 3 projects that we're going to submit to the state for hopefully getting approved this year is the completion of Glassford Hill over in Prescott Valley. Can't do anything about that when it's already started. Road 389 from Road 3 to Road 4, widening and improvements. And then the third one is 89 from Road 4 to Road 5, widening, improvements, and installing a roundabout at Road 5.
Cool.
We hope we get them.
Yeah.
Okay. They were out of food by the time I got there. That's what I get for being late. I do want to say that school is back in session for Chino Valley. So please be mindful of that. Speed limit in school zones is 15 miles per hour. Next week is homecoming week. There will be a parade Monday morning for all the seniors. You see anything in yellow, that's a senior. Chino soccer is still undefeated, boys and girls. So anyways, just be mindful of the kids, okay? Thank you. That's all I got.
Madam Town Manager?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, I am very excited tonight to introduce Miss Tricia Lewis. Her firm, Northern Arizona Partners, is on your agenda tonight for approval. Her firm will be our consultant for public information officer. So she comes to us with a lot of experience and from the area, knows the area. So we're very excited to have her and wanted to introduce you to her tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Would anybody on this side like anything removed?
No.
How about this side? Nope. Okay.
I'll make a motion. We approve consent agenda items 5A, B, C, D, E, and F as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, action items. 6A, public hearing and consideration and possible action to approve
Sir?
order. Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Let me back up.
I even called him sir.
I need a motion to move item 6C up to the first position.
I'll make a motion. We move item 6C up to the first position.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So we're going to go to item 6C, which is consideration and possible action to approve the purchase and sale agreement for the sale of 40 acres of land at Old Home Manor. Maggie, are you doing this one? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you all know, we've been trying to get an RV park in Chino Valley for a very long time, for much longer than I even started. So we're pretty excited about this. An offer was submitted for 40 acres for land at Old Home Manor for RV park development. What's going on? So just for fun, a little history at Old Home Manor. From the years of 1983 to 2009, the town purchased 880 acres, kind of all over the place for in excess of $840,000. And then they got pretty serious in 2016 and 18, and they hired a consulting group to begin a master plan. It was a pretty exhausting master plan. There was a golf course, there was a lot going on, and without the water capacity, that wasn't going to happen. But to keep it short, just this is here to show you that it's been something that works for quite a while. In 2019, the town rezoned to business park zoning, so that has
as you all know, conditional uses, prohibited uses, and permitted uses at the business park. And then in 2021, the town council approved the sale of the land, and an invitation for bids went out, and it closed in June of this year. So to give everybody an idea, conceptually, the proposed site is up here. Here's all of Old Home Manor, and then here's Road 4 North, et cetera. So you can see where Old Home Manor's at if you don't already know. So another timeline. So the invitation for bids, the first one went out in November of 2021 and then closed, and then the parcel changed, so we had to go out to bid again. The developer is offering 1.11 million for 40 acres of land, and they have a great track record of successfully completed projects. Earnest money in the amount of $20,000 will be deposited into an escrow account, and when it closes, the rest will be paid out. And just to give you guys an idea, so we had sketch architects do some designs to kind of take into account everything that the council at the time wanted. We didn't want just a plain RV park. We want a community center. We want pickleball courts. We want even maybe a convenience store. We want it to be nice. And so the current developer that's offering 1.11 million has this and knows what our expectations are. Here are the next steps. So staff recommends approving the purchase and sale agreement for 40 acres of land for an RV park at Old Home Manor, 1.11 million. And the buyer is to deposit the earnest money, schedule a pre-application meeting with development service and a site plan review meeting. And then they need 180 days for due diligence for all the stuff that they have to do. And that is it, short and sweet.
Okay. Any questions from council? Yes, sir.
Are these going to be long-term spaces?
No.
Okay.
Maggie?
Eric?
Yes.
I'm good.
I'm just full of it tonight. I'm
You
sorry.
are.
I know. Sorry.
Sit back. You good? Any questions? I'm good. Lon?
No, I don't have any.
How about down here?
Nope, fine, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. Could you pull up the slide showing the parcel number, please? Or the specific parcel so we can look at it?
Sure.
Or I can look at it.
Which, the specific parcels which you're looking for? So that one's going to be,
I saw it at one point.
yeah, it's, hang on.
There.
So this is the parcel right here, 306020001A. So just to put it in perspective, the little BMX track is right here. And then it's adjacent to this, all in blue is Business Park. The ball fields are over here.
And I wanted to make sure that they're going to be on water and sewer, is that correct?
So that's going to be a process with development services, yes. We have to find a way to get there through a development agreement.
Okay.
Is this for both parcels A and C? Because they're both red.
Only A. This map was created for a 5-year capital improvement plan.
Okay.
Just as a,
All right. Anything else?
Very nice.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
Over here, up in the tan and the right within the pink, that's the existing equestrian center and the buildings?
so yes, so the tan
Okay.
is going to be the College of Agriculture and the pink is the Equestrian Center.
Okay.
Do I? I'm excited.
We'll entertain a motion.
Okay. This is exciting. I make a motion, we approve item 6C, purchase and sale agreement for the sale of 40 acres of land for the development of an RV park at Old Home Manor in the amount of $1,110,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6A, public hearing and consideration and possible action to approve ordinance 2022-920 from Lori. Are you doing this one?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lori Laneberry, your Development Services Director. So I'm gonna. We have a text amendment before you tonight whose only purpose is this: to allow renting of existingly allowed guest houses. So I know that there has been some confusion because some people think, oh my gosh, we can't have guest houses. Currently in the code, any property that's zoned greater than 1 acre is allowed to have a guest house. So this is not allowing things that we currently don't allow. What this proposal is to allow legal rental of units. And there's a parameters in which we believe, and working with the Planning Commission, will protect the neighbors who might be next to someone who has a guest house, who they choose to rent out. At your last meeting in June, there were some questions that were brought up by residents, and we went back to the Planning Commission and had some dialogue. And so we have some answers for the questions. So one of the questions was, what's the definition of new for a new manufactured home? And the commission determined that new is a manufactured home unit that has never been lived in, not used or occupied, and is no more than 2 years old from the date of manufacture. So just like cars, you get last year's model and it doesn't sell, it's still brand new. And so what the commission wanted to do is make sure that that there was a window for taking those, like it's 22 right now, so the 2020s would still be considered new if they were still on the lot, they hadn't been used. Even though it's not current year model, it is a brand new model within that time frame. So they felt that that was a fair definition of what a new manufactured home would be. The commission spent a lot of time talking about site-built and manufactured homes and how to mix them or not mix them on lots. What they determined was the best way to make sure that the two types of units work together is to make sure that a manufactured guest home is allowed on a lot with a manufactured home, and a site-built guest home needs to be on a site with a site-built home. So, like for like, they had them mixed up before, but when they started talking about design and how you fit architecturally the two together with roof pitches and building materials, felt that the two didn't blend themselves to making it look like it's not two separate units on a lot, that it actually is a development that belongs together. And so that was the recommendation in your staff report on page 78. That would be scenario 1 is the one that they chose. There was a question about having manufactured homes on permanent foundations, and that was in the original recommendation from the Planning Commission, and yes, that still holds true. There was discussion about whether guest homes being offered up for rental should or should not be metered to utilities, have separate utility meterings. Currently, our code for guest homes does not allow separate metering, and that's because our current code does not allow renting of guest houses. So this would be a supplemental piece that if you choose to rent your guest home, there's other criteria that you have to follow. One of those is that you could choose to meter your utilities to your guest house. But there's also the other pieces that you need to comply with, which is that you need to sign an affidavit that says that you, the owner, will live on site so that you can manage and maintain your renters so that they do not become a problem for your neighbors. It's about private property rights and making sure that you aren't imposing on your neighbors while you're renting out your guest house. But you also have to live on the property. And that really makes a better neighbor when you have the property owner living on the property. If there's an issue, they're right there that you can address it. If you're the neighbor or as the owner, you can do that. So the Planning Commission felt that the property owner could decide to choose to have separate metering or not, depending on how they felt they wanted to manage that. Sometimes physically you can't separately meter things, but sometimes you can. And so they felt that that should be left up to the property owner. And there was a question about CC&Rs and town code and how that works. And the town attorney answered that pretty accurately at our last meeting, that we have our codes that we enforce. The HOA have their own CC&Rs that they enforce. And when there's a conflict, we only enforce our codes. And so it's up to the HOA and the homeowners association and the CCRs for that group to through the civil process to enforce their own rules and regulations. I was going to move this ahead one. So currently guest houses are allowed in residential zones. The proposal tonight is asking whether we should allow rental of guest homes under certain criteria. The existing guest house code will remain in place. So we're not removing it. We're just adding a provision that if someone wants to rent, there's other criteria that they have to meet. And so this is a proposal for you, the council, to decide if this is something that's appropriate for the town of Chino. And if it is, we have the code here for you. And if it isn't, we move on to something else. Thank you.
All right. How about questions over here for Lori? John?
What's the public response been from what you've gathered?
At our planning commission meeting, I think our third one that we had, we did actually have people that came up at the call to the public and thought that this would be helpful for the housing situation and that it was a step forward. But then at our last council meeting, I also heard the opposite. So it's probably a mixed bag out there.
Have we had any conversations with APS, Unisource Energy, the mail folks, any of that about meters and mailboxes and separate addresses and all that?
Well, we wouldn't be allowing a separate address. It would be an A and a B. And then it would be, we did not reach out to APS because we know that we deal with permits all the time. If somebody wants a meter, we contact APS and they make sure that we're okay with it and they set the meters.
Okay, so they don't have a problem with 2 meters on, or two
No.
houses going on 1 meter? Okay.
Oops, sorry. Amy?
Can I just take a second to laugh? My question's actually pretty complex of how they went from, I watched it from home, okay? So they started with, everyone was good with 3, with the mixed use, site built and manufactured, vice versa. And then they went to 1. So only site built, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
What happened between 3 and 1?
It was,
What happened at 2?
well, it was really the discussion about how do these fit in the neighborhood to make it look like they belong together and not 2 separate units on a lot that don't have anything to do with each other. And so there was discussion about the building materials for each type, either a site-built or a manufactured home, roof pitches, roof materials, and how to really make the 2 look like they belong and were maybe built together or intentionally as a functional property instead of 2 separate things on a property. That's how they got to that place. So it was design criteria, visual impact to the neighborhoods.
I have built guest houses before, and I know there was a line of events you had to do to be able to put a guest house on an acre lot. And I don't have any problem with it. Are people going to be able to build just a house for a rental?
If they currently have a house on the lot.
No. Are they going to be able to construct, like I have an acre of land and my house is on it. Can I build another house strictly for a rental? Or does it have to be a guest house first?
It has to.
That's where my confusion is.
Okay. So the guest house has a size maximum.
Right.
And so it has to be subordinate to the primary house. So you can't have 2 4,000 square foot houses on the same lot. If you have a 4,000 square foot lot, then depending on which zone you're in, you could either have a 1,200 square foot or a certain percentage of the primary. But you could, if you had a piece of land and you had nothing on it and you wanted to build a house and you wanted to rent that house out, you can do that. There's nothing that says you can't do that. If you want to build a second unit and rent out that, you need to live on the property.
I don't think. My question is, I have an acre of land with a house on it that I live on. Can I build a separate structure for rental purposes only?
For a guest house, you can do that as long as you continue to live on the property.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not real wild about that. Go ahead, I'm thinking.
Okay, I had a few questions. First of all, the owner has to live on the property, and I know there's a question from someone in the audience at the planning and zoning with this. So for whatever reason, if that person that lives in the primary, that owns the property, lives in the primary residence, is moving, whether it's health, whether it's whatever, and they want to rent that, then the guest house cannot be rented. What becomes of it? I mean, do the windows just have to be boarded up? Can the renter that's renting the primary residence, do they now become kind of the primary, and could they rent it?
No, you can only have one rental property, one rental unit per property.
So it could be used as a guest house by that renter, but not rented?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that answered that question. Can you, on page 90, third paragraph down, can you explain the last line where you responded? I was confused with that. The options, place the restrictions, and that you had to live on the property, but it said, the last phrase, page 90, and it said the last sentence.
Of the third paragraph?
Yeah, it well, okay. Stated the options available are to leave things the way they are, where we do nothing, or place restrictions and keep neighboring properties from being infringed upon by renters who aren't supposed to be there right now, and that there is currently no control over. And I didn't understand that, because right now, it's not legal to rent a guest house. So can you explain what you meant by that?
So currently, you are correct. Guest houses are not legally allowed to be rented out. What this code would do is put parameters in place with which the property owner would need to meet in order to allow a rental to occur on the property, legally to occur on the property. I think part of the dialogue was that if you have renters and renters, then you don't have the ability to really protect the neighbors. And this is an addition to the rights of a property if you adopt this code. And so with the rights comes responsibility, and part of that responsibility is making sure that you're not infringing upon your neighbors by the action that you are taking by having a rental unit there. And so that means you're controlling the situation so that you're not making a problem for your neighbors.
Yeah, I understood that part. It's just that if there's people renting guest homes right now, they shouldn't be. They should be cited and told that they can't.
When we are informed, that's what we do.
Okay. All right. My next question was regarding septic systems. If I come in to the town of Chino Valley and I want to put in an application to build a guest home, along with my plans, what I want to put on there and so on, do I have to bring a approval from the county that my septic system can handle both homes?
You need to get approval from the county in order to add that unit on, yes.
Okay, so before I could get a building permit, I have to go do that, and that
Or
has-
before you get your final, you would have to do that. We would need that before we would final off the building,
You would need that before you should a permit.
generally.
That was my question. That's what I would think, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we ask.
I don't want to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I can go again?
Yeah.
You're sweet.
Go ahead.
So if we pass this, then that allows anybody that owns an acre of land to put a second house on their land or second structure, call it what you may, a guest house for rental. So we're taking AR1 and turned into AR.5.
12,000 or 24,000.
Currently, someone could do that. The only difference is
It's a guest house.
is that you can rent it out with this code. You can currently have 2 units on that same piece of land, a guest house and a primary house. So this isn't adding any more units than the code currently allows. It just lets you rent one of them.
Just for the council, my opinion is, if we need to figure out some way, if you have a mother-in-law's house or a guest house, and then they pass, I could see some provision that would allow you to maybe, I'm not sure if I'm really happy with that either, but maybe that you could rent that guest house instead of it just sitting there and falling apart or turned into a barn, versus being able to build a structure just solely for rental.
I mean, the thought crossed my mind.
Andrew,
Microphone.
VRBOs, guest house can be used for VRBOs because they're considered short-term rentals today, with or without this change in the wording.
I wouldn't think so.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, no. Right now, the short-term rental law in the state, which is changing as of the 23rd of September, only prohibits you from stopping a short-term rental if it's being treated as the same as a single-family residential. So right now, your regular single-family home can't rent its guest house. If they have a guest house and it's allowed to be rented, then a short-term rental could utilize the space the same way that a long-term rental could. The only difference is in the length of the contract. If it's over 30 days, it's a long-term rental. That's governed by just generally whatever your typical multifamily or your rental code covers. Short-term rental ones only apply to 30 days and less. There are communities in the state, though, that prohibit the use of guest houses for any kind of rental, and that includes short-term. So that's one of those complicated by the state's imposition of its short-term rental laws on you. If you can rent it, it can be to a short-term rental.
Yeah, I think this is in my opinion, the end result would be an unofficial lot split. You know what I mean? It's having the effects of a lot split because you're allowing two permanent residences on the same land. And that's what from the people I've heard, that's the number one concern, and I share that concern with them as well.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. No, Eric.
Oh, I agree with you, John. It's splitting a lot. You're putting 2 meters on one parcel and allowing a rental. I understand. I feel for people that can't rent here in Chino, but you're essentially creating 2 lots out of 1 acre.
Boyce, you got anything, buddy?
I think that the second rental should be a no towards much like a B&B, where somebody travels, and even the short term. But I don't.
Okay.
There's no way to regulate. I'm sorry, Annie.
No, go ahead.
There's no way to regulate if the owner's going to be living full time on the parcel. I understand what you guys said at the P&Z. People talk, but how can you regulate that somebody's going to be there full time?
Well, we can't guarantee that someone can't take a month's vacation.
They'll probably take 6 months vacation, live here during the summer,
Well, or 6 months vacation.
leave in the winter. Yeah, they're still gonna be gone.
Eric goes on a lot of vacations.
Yeah.
Not for that long, though. Not for that long. I have a question, comments. Okay, so we have existing houses that already have a guest house on them.
Yes.
Right? And then we have random existing houses, just one. They're both on a 1 acre minimum. This person wants to rent out their guest house. This would accomplish it, right? It's already there. Now this person wants to put a guest house on there. It has to be either manufactured if their home is manufactured or site built if their house is site built. Okay, so as it stands now, hypothetically, I have a guest house. Someone's renting it. I don't have a guest house. No one's renting it, okay? Hypothetically, there's nothing keeping me from saying, here, you can rent this guest house. Give me, I don't know what they charge. Whatever, pay rent, whatever. There's nothing saying that, there's nothing currently that the town's going to be like, oh, no, don't you do that, Annie. Because it's not enforced, right? It's just not, it's not. So we do this and we create less personal property rights, in my opinion, by restricting what they put on there, whether it has to be site built, manufactured. I understand the pitch and the design and the coloring. I think things have come a really long way. If we did absolutely nothing tonight, aside from erasing a lot of hard work, where would we stand? Just you have a guest house, you can only have people stay there under 30 days, I believe. No?
No guest house.
How long can you stay in a guest house?
You can stay at like a mother-in-law's quarters, same thing.
Right.
So they can
But you
stay.
can't charge
They
for
can
it.
stay.
Okay.
But you can't rent
Right.
it,
Okay.
correct?
Right. The only thing that changes is that we would intentionally be allowing rental of the guest house, and there's other criteria that they would have to meet.
Okay.
So that's the only difference.
Right now, you could put two separate meters from APS on a property,
No.
but you can't.
No.
You can't
Yes.
you can't separate meter right now.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. It's been done.
My code expert says no.
So
I'll show you.
You're not supposed
Okay.
to.
We're happy to take a look.
All right, to the construction guys.
Permitted guest house that I built, and it's got 2 separate meters, so.
Our current code does not allow separate metering, which is why we talked about it at the planning commission meeting, because currently we don't allow that.
Okay, so no 2 separate meters, no 2 separate meters for APS or for septic right now.
Correct.
Or
No,
for
no,
sewer, I
no
mean,
separate metering for whatever
For-
comes in
for
that
any
can be
utility.
metered.
for Unisource or whatever the case may be. So
I
no
got-
2
I
separate
got the
meters.
second structure on the 1 acre property and say you can't rent that guest house, and I'm going, it's my mother-in-law quarters, it's not a guest house. Boom, you're out the window. There's nothing you can enforce at that point. Is that correct? It's just the terminology. If you want to pig me for having a guest house, I'm gonna call it something different, and you can take your ordinance and go away.
But a guest house is the only thing you can do right now.
What if you already have a mother-in-law quarters and that's what you're called on your property already? Do you have to revert back and call it a guest house and tear it down?
No, you just
No.
you just can't rent it.
It's just a matter of charging someone rent for it.
Yeah, I see a lot of under-the-table rent being paid here.
Yeah, but you don't have 2 separate meters. You only have 1 meter for the house, so that
Yeah.
eliminates some of it.
Although, when I did live in a house that had a guest house on the property, and they both had meters. But that was built a long time ago, so it is possible.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Is that it? We can get the public's input on this now?
Yeah,
You
let's get the
guys-
public input.
Open it up.
All right, we're going to open up the meeting for public input. So I declare the public hearing open.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the clerk's office received a letter, which is in front of you at the dais, from Kathy Middlestead. I won't read the entire letter, but it is there for you to read later. I will let you know that Ms. Middlestead opposes this item. Next up is Larry Holt.
Well, you got good Larry, now you get bad Larry. I oppose this on several counts, and I've heard most of them come out of your mouths right now. But the biggest thing is, I'll do this with my neighborhood. There's 72 or 73 homes in my neighborhood. A few of them have guest houses. Let's say they all decide they want to put guest houses in. You've just doubled all the traffic in that neighborhood. And I'm not a guy with a whole ton of education, but I got a little bit of smarts. And if I've got addresses 101A and 101B, that's 2 residences on 1 acre. I don't care what you say. Once you split the address, it's 2 people, 2 different entire groups living on that same property. So, you know, you've all read what I probably wrote already, but this to me, there's just nothing good about it. Not to mention, what about, I'll go quick, Jack. Not to mention, what happens when somebody dies? You ever tried to evict anybody? It's not an easy thing. So if somebody dies, now you got the renter back there. There's nobody in the front house. Nobody's watching it. How long does it take to evict them out? And I don't care if the owner lives on site or not, because I've seen plenty of rentals where the owner lives on site and they look like trash.
Mhm.
So basically, you know where my feelings are on it, but I just don't see any way that common sense tells me 2 different groups living in 2 different residences on the same property doesn't constitute a split. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Larry.
And next up, Tanya Hebel. I don't know how you say it, I'm sorry.
Basically, the same things you guys have talked about, but also really on that, if you make them, you can have rentals, the Airbnb, you don't want that back there. And it probably is a problem on septic. I know a neighbor that added for a garage, and they had to increase their septic, and they weren't allowed to put a second one on for that many acres. And I think it'll be a problem all around, and I'm totally against it.
Thank you.
That's all the submitted comment cards
Anyone
I
else
had.
would like to speak? Come on up. Rachel, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mayor?
Good.
Good evening, guys. Nice to see you. To be honest, I've attended and watched all the study sessions on this topic. I think that the planning department, specifically Lori, has put in so much effort working with the planning commission, answered all the questions. And if you guys watched it, I mean, it was like, it was a great discussion. It was awesome to see so many people with so much input. And coming out of the planning commission meeting, I was like, yes, this is amazing. Like, it's going to give a great opportunity for people to make additional income from their property, solve our rental situation, housing. But now, after being here and listening to you guys, I'm kind of like, it seems like there's a bigger problem. And before we can approve something like this, it's kind of like Mr. Armstrong is saying, there's a lot under the table guest house renting going on, right? A lot of income that property owners are getting, and no tax for that is coming to the town. So it seems like before we can approve something like this as a property use for people, we have to have some type of better enforcement, because we can't rely on just people talking. People want to talk in this town about things other than who's renting their guest house as a, Airbnb. So I guess my question is, how do we regulate what's going on already with the guest house or mother-in-law's quarters that are being under the table rented before we can actually move on to something? I mean, personally, I have 10 acres. So, I'm AR5, so I could do this easy, right? And it's not a lot split. It's not turning a SR1 into, SR 0.5. And it does kind of seem like if people want to do that, it constitutes a rezone. If you're really going to put another site-built house on your property and rent it out long-term, short-term, whatever the condition, it's not really fair to your neighbors, and their property, right? If you're in SR1 or whatever. So I guess how do we get better regulation on it before we actually approve this next step? Because it's kind of like we are asking for a mess if we just say this without some better attention and regulation. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Anyone else? Yes, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's John Hamilton. I live here in Chino. Just a couple of questions. Is there any regulation at this point what the minimum number of square feet of one of these residences could be?
Yes.
Okay, do we have that? I'm just curious what the minimum.
Off the top of my head, it's 800.
50%?
400.
400 square feet, right?
Smallest? Yeah. 400 square feet. 400, okay. The other question is there a regulation for the maximum number of residents that can be living in one of these guest rentals?
I see. You mean
Yeah, the
person,
maximum
like
number
a
of people that can
person per
occupy that
square
house.
foot regulation
Yeah.
in the building code? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lori, could you please address Rachel's question on the regulation?
Sure. There are ways to get a better handle on what's currently out there, but it's not going to be stuff that you guys are going to like. It's like requiring that all the guest houses be registered, that they're inspected on an annual basis, that that the owner has a declaration that that's signed, and a signed affidavit that swears that they're not doing that. I don't know that we can license them because I think the state's taken away our ability to do that. But that seems like a little more intrusive. Maybe we say, gee, if you have a guest house, good for you. Maybe we don't allow anymore.
You're saying that the town go in there and?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's how you get a handle on something that is turned into a free-for-all.
Mr. Attorney, you have a look on your face that begs me to ask a question of your opinion.
Oh. I haven't seen
Well,
that response ever.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I don't know to what extent in a single family use that we would have I mean, it's doubtful without a lot of digging to see if you would have that authority in the first place. It's a code enforcement issue more than anything else. And there are very few ways to find out if someone is renting something illegally, because the way we would typically find out is we go to the registry that they're required to do to register the property with the county. And we would get that information and say, okay, it's a rental and this is how we find them. That's about as far as we can go under current code provisions. I mean, you don't have, I can't conceive of anything without doing a lot of research that would allow you to go into someone's single family home and inspect on whether they have a renter. That's
What if
that's
it's a
gonna be
neighbor-driven
tough one.
complaint, though? A neighbor-driven complaint?
And we certainly can do that. Code enforcement's limited in a number of ways. I mean, it's generally only going to be complaint-driven because you just don't have the staff or bodies or money for active code enforcement. The cities that do, they have whole staffs, and so you don't have that. If a neighbor complains, then you're going to be limited by the Regulatory Bill of Rights in terms of how you can go about enforcing some sort of a subpoena or warrant to determine whether or not that person is renting the property. So, the state has clamped down pretty hard local government's ability to do some of these things. So before we went down that road and gave you whatever your options might be, we would have to be a lot more thorough in the response and talk to you probably in executive session too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to say? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And see, council, have any final comments on this before we call a motion?
I do. With all the questions, all the comments that I've heard over the last several minutes, to say the least, I really don't believe we're ready for prime time. And I'm going to suggest we table this, get some more of these questions answered, and come back and talk about it again.
I'm in agreement with Lon that we hang on to
Making
this.
that a motion?
I'm just suggesting we can, if we table it, we don't have to have a motion, do we?
Yes. Don't we?
You have
I thought we were discussing.
you have several different ways to approach it. You can continue it indefinitely, which means that it just lingers and we don't have a resolution and nobody knows. If you continue it indefinitely, then before it could come back, it would have to be re-advertised. It would go back through the P&Z process. And so it provides a little bit of a safeguard that it wouldn't just pop back up on an agenda. If you continue it to a specific date, you don't have to do all the re-advertising, go through P&Z or those processes. Or you can have a motion to deny and be done with it tonight.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't want to deny it because I'm not really sure, because then it's dead and we got to start all over. So I would be in favor to schedule it for 2 months down the road.
2 months.
I was thinking October.
What is it?
October?
It would be the 11th or the 25th.
October.
Or 25th? How about October 25th?
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting, so I'm open.
I can,
Yeah, I'm in on October 25th. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
But I wouldn't mind it going back through planning and zoning a little bit also.
Okay.
I agree with all this.
Okay.
What do you think?
So do we
I
have
agree.
to make a
I
motion
would say
to that?
no now.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if you want it to go to a date specific, the motion should consider that date. If you don't want it to go to a specific date and have it then go back through advertising, go through P&Z and come back up, you can continue it indefinitely, or you can just direct it back to P&Z.
About November 8th.
You know what, Eric, that's a good idea.
Can we have a study session on it?
Can we spend some more time on this?
Maybe a joint study session with P&Z and us?
You can certainly have, there's 3 questions. The first answer is yes, you can have a study session on it, but remember, because you have P&Z and you have the public hearing process, we would want to to call it a public hearing and make sure we give it the proper advertising so everybody knows what's going on. You can have a joint session with P&Z if you want. That's certainly available to you. All of that's possible. If you continue to a specific date, it's still on your plate. If you just continue it and then ask staff to go through the process of setting some of that up, it gives a little more flexibility, and then we'll re-advertise it the right way to bring it back out.
Lori?
That's what you think? Okay. I'm fine with that, whatever.
November 22nd, that gives us 3 months. plenty
That's
of time.
Thanksgiving.
No,
Yeah.
they're talking about, you're talking that, does it look like the best way to do it is just table it indefinitely and start back? Okay.
Why don't
So-
you just say that in the beginning?
I'm good with that.
You asked me 3 questions. I had to give
Okay.
you 3 answers.
Well, it's like an engineer. It depends.
First and foremost, I appreciate all your hard work on this, and we're not going to just let it fall. Okay, so I make a motion that we
Table indefinitely.
table ordinance 2022-920 indefinitely.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Phew, finally got through that one. Okay. Public hearing and consideration. Public hearing and consideration and possible action to approve ordinance 2022-921 from Will. Hello, Will.
Alrighty, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is a requested rezone by Mr. Roki. He is a property owner here within town of Chino Valley limits. He's requesting to rezone from industrial to single-family residential 1 acre minimum. So the property in question is approximately 1 acre in size. It is located at the east end of Granite Creek Lane on the north side, just east of Arizona Trail. To the north, you do have El Charro Norte. To the east is the Peavine Trail. And then if you go further east, you get into the Old Home Manor Business Park. You may remember back in May of this year, we did take a rezone through for the Zito Group, rezoning a similar piece of property that was 3 acres in size from industrial to single-family residential 1 acre minimum. That was approved by council. And currently the subject property in question is vacant. This item went before Planning and Zoning on July 5th. The commission had no discussion and there was no comment from the public. They did forward a vote 7-0 in favor. With that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission forwards a recommendation to Town Council for approval of this rezone, subject to the conditions of approval found in Attachment 1. I'll open it up for questions or discussion.
Any questions for Wills? This
Not
side.
no.
How about over here?
Nope.
Any?
Can you put attachment 1 up on the screen, please? It seems pretty cut and dry. I just want to see.
Nothing
What
crazy.
did you ask for?
The conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, the conditions.
I'm good.
You done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then no further questions for Will. We'll open the public hearing. Is there any comments from the public on
Mayor, did you want to hear from the applicant at all? Is the applicant here? I'm sorry.
this? Mayor opens public hearing. Public comments. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Excuse me. Pardon me. I'm sorry. The applicant. Does the council have any questions for the applicant, or does the applicant have any comments he'd like to make? If so, you can come on up. No?
No.
Any questions? Okay. Now we're going to open the public hearing. Is there any comments from the public?
I do not have any submitted.
Anybody here wants to talk about this? All right. So now we're gonna close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I think Cloyce was saying something, but okay. I move to approve item 6B, ordinance 2022-921, as presented, subject to the staff report, information provided during this hearing, and conditions found in attachment 1.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Turner.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and carried. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all. Don't forget we have e-session in the room.
After we take pictures.
Yeah, supposed to take.
Oh yeah, pictures.
Sorry,
I thought
guys.
they were at 5 o'clock.
Pictures? We got one.
I just want to make sure everyone heard that we got applause. That never happens.